In today's show,
and I'd find one dealer that was really knocking the ball out of the park, selling cars and trucks, and I'd take some of those key learnings and I'd bring that around to other dealers and help them. And so for me, being successful is helping other people be successful, learning what it takes, failing repeatedly, and then learning how I have to change and be a better person. Today anymore, for me, a good company culture is about growth, change, accountability, alignment, and fit. Those are the 5 things today that make a company successful. And those are the things that have made my life successful. So I just steal from my own life and what I've had to go through. And growth, change, accountability, alignment, and fit. That's it. If those are working, you're working.
In today's ultra-competitive business world, being a successful entrepreneur or business owner can be very challenging. Fortunately, contemporary times have blessed us with resources for tackling those challenges and getting us to success more quickly than we could have imagined. Welcome to The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan, a podcast that explores how the world's most powerful entrepreneurs grow incredible companies. This podcast looks at the 5 keys to unlocking success as an entrepreneur. A successful educator turned entrepreneur, Jason's mission is to use his gifts of teaching and leadership to help others get the results they want out of life. Join Jason every week and learn the keys to grow a truly successful business.
welcome back to another edition of The Root of All Success. I'm the real Jason Duncan, coming to you from our studio at Energy Lighting Services here in Hendersonville, Tennessee. We don't record here often. It's actually the only 3rd day that we've recorded here ever. And I want to give a shout out to my assistant, Wendy, because today I thought this started later than it did, and I got here late and she already had most of this set up. So it's quite an ordeal to set all this stuff up. For those of you that also do podcasting, and I know some of our listeners also podcast, you know how big of a deal it is to set up the cameras and the lights and the chairs and all the sound equipment. So she did a great job. So Wendy is amazing. So I'm glad she did that. But welcome to the show. I've got a great guest for you today that I'm excited to talk about for 2 very specific reasons. The first reason, of course, is just like any other guest, he's a very successful entrepreneur, and I can't wait to talk about his success. But the second reason is his success is a lot in an industry that I'm about to go into. So I'm going to selfishly use this opportunity to dig into his experiences and how they might, I might reflect some of those experiences as I begin my adventure in that. And I'll tell you a little bit more about him in just a second. But I first want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And if you're not watching this on YouTube, you really should go take a look at this, because we record all of these, whether we do it live like we're doing today in person or whether we do it on Zoom. They're all on YouTube and C-Suite TV. So you can go to C-Suite TV and just search for The Root of All Success, or you can go to YouTube and search for The Root of All Success, or you go straight to my channel, youtube.com/The Real Jason Duncan. I've got lots of content specifically for entrepreneurs, leaders, business leaders on financial literacy, sales, etc. But one of my playlists on there is The Root of All Success, and all my episodes. I think Clark's at guest number 89 that I've had on the show. So there's lots of guests that you can go back and watch and listen to. If you're listening to this in your car, driving, you're out walking your dog, whatever it is you're doing, also want to thank you for doing that. Make sure you subscribe and leave a review, because those reviews and subscriptions help get our show in front of more people. And the more people that we get in front of, the more impact we can make, the more success people can enjoy. So thank you for doing that and taking a little bit of time to do that. So now, without any further ado, let me introduce you to my guest today, Clark Vitulli. So Clark, I got a really long and amazing introduction for him, but I'm going to give you the synopsis, and then we're going to dig into this as we get in here. But let me tell you how we met. So we were introduced through a mutual acquaintance, Amanda Banks, I think. So shout out to Amanda if you're listening. Thank you for introducing me to Clark. And we had lunch. Clark and I had lunch here in Nashville. I don't know, it was probably 1.5 years ago, Clark, I think maybe. And we just sat down and got to talking, and I didn't know he had been in the motorcycle industry. So what you're gonna find today is that Clark is, and I'm gonna read some of this stuff, and I typically don't read these, but he's been a chief executive officer within the VISTAGE group. So if you're familiar with VISTAGE, it's a group for business leaders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and he's been leading that one for quite some time. It's called Music City Chief Executives. It's a Better Business Bureau company. He's been honored by the Better Business Bureau. He's won so many awards. I mean, some of this stuff, he's just 5-time winner of the VISTAGE Chair Excellence Award. He's now a Master Chair. He's also won Rookie of the Year Award, author of VISTAGE, and he's helping over 70 business leaders here in the Nashville area. And they're doing over, $3.1 billion in contracts in business. So this guy is working not only in his own right doing business as an entrepreneur and as an executive, but is leading 70 other executives just like you here in the Nashville market to do over $3 billion in business. He's been with several different companies over his years, mostly in the power sports, boating, RV world. And one of those was Harley-Davidson of St. Augustine, where during his tenure as the owner of that dealership, they were voted best dealership in St. Augustine, best dealership in Jacksonville. They were in the Dealer News Top 100 Dealer, and they won that 4 years in a row. And that's the only HD dealership in the state of Florida that's ever won that. And if you know motorcycles, there's a lot of big HD dealerships down there in Florida. So that's quite an honor. He also had a company called America's Power Sports, APS, that he founded in 1998. And during his tenure there, he ended up acquiring over 17 different dealerships, and they had brands such as Harley-Davidson, Honda, BMW, Yamaha, Suzuki, Polaris, Sea-Doo. His profits at his dealerships had over 2.5 times greater than the industry average. So he was doing something right. He was making a difference, and he had 663 brands, but he had, how many employees was it? 635. Yeah, 635 employees. That's a lot of people to manage. And so what you'll see in our story with Clark today is that not only has he done startups and he's helping other people do that, but he's also managed nationwide organizations. He also worked with Outboard Marine Corporation. They recruited him to be their president of their boat group. He's worked with Mark III Industries. For those of you that know that, that's in the RV industry. They do truck and van conversions. And so they recruited him there to work there as its president and CEO. And he left that to go do some consulting assignments in Korea and Saudi Arabia, just down the street. And then he was also with Mazda Motor Corporation of America as its executive VP and chief operating officer. And while he was there, he helped launch 6 new cars and trucks, and they had growth and dealer satisfaction that hasn't been experienced since or prior to his being a part of that. And he also worked at Chrysler Corporation as a district manager in Florida. He had managed positions in Florida, DC, Detroit, and California. And while he was there, he got to work directly with Lee Iacocca, which I want to ask some questions about that, because that guy's he's a legend in the business world. So he's coached internationally, coached nationally. He's coaching a lot of people. He's supportive of nonprofits like the Second Harvest Food Bank, Wounded Warriors, Humane Society, Cancer Society, and Tucker House, among others. He's got a wife named Christy, 2 adult sons. They live here in Nashville. He's got all kinds of degrees from all these different universities. He speaks guest lectures at Vanderbilt and Lipscomb here in Nashville, and it's just an honor to have him on the show. So Clark, welcome to the show, man. That's an impressive background.
Great being with you. I got to run, so you got it all. You nailed it.
For somebody in their 20s, you've been busy.
Yes, I have.
Well, thank you for being here. It's an honor to know you. When Amanda introduced us, I remember the day she called. She's like, "Hey, I just met this guy. It'd be great for your podcast." And I don't even know how you guys met, but she said, you just need to meet him. Well, I had no idea, but I trust Amanda, and I trusted what she would recommend.
She's
so
great.
we had lunch at I think J. Alexander's down on the West End, and it was great. And then I think the world was falling apart or fell apart right there soon after, and we stayed in touch, and here we are, man.
Glad we did.
Yeah. So impressive background, obviously, but if you go back to the beginning, when you first noticed your entrepreneurial spirit kind of creeping up, was it as a child? Was it as a teenager, an adult? Where did that start, and what was it like? I
was 10, and my mom and dad had gotten divorced when I was younger. I was either too ugly or too stupid or something, and they didn't want me, and they were fighting over me and all that good stuff. And my mom had my 2 brothers, 2 older brothers, and I moved to Florida. I was born in Brooklyn. My dad lived in Brooklyn, so he decided to stay there. Mom and the kids moved down to Florida. And when I was about 10, I wanted to see my dad in the summer, so she would put me on a train and say, "Okay, you're off to New York, Dad would pick me up at Grand Central Station, and we'd spend a fabulous summer together. We'd go fishing. I'd go to work with him and so forth. He was an interior decorator. And we just had a great time. And so it was back and forth every summer from 10 to 18 till I graduated high school, that those opportunities to meet different people, travel on a train by myself as a kid, all the people that my dad introduced me to up in New York and my mom down in Florida. And it was just a great thing. And it gave me a sense of independence, if you will, that I was doing that by myself as a kid. I thought it was exciting. I really wasn't afraid of anything and just took it a day at a time. And it was
So
great.
that's pretty. I mean, would you put your 10-year-old kid on a train to go
Hell
cross
no.
country? That is crazy. So from what part of Florida was it?
Palm Beach, Florida.
Oh, okay. So Palm Beach all the way to how long of a
Brooklyn.
trip was that as a 10-year-old kid?
A day.
A
It
day.
was 22 hours.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
all day, all night. And they told the conductor, don't let this guy off. You're going to be stopping at 100 different places. He gets off nowhere until you end up at Grand Central Station.
Well, I guess kids do. I see every once in a while on airplanes where there's a kid
Yeah.
traveling alone.
I see
guess
that today too.
I couldn't do that. I could not
Nope.
put my kid. Of course, my kids are older now, but I couldn't have.
Right.
If I'd have had a young child that needed to do that, I'd think, I'll fly with you, and then I'll fly back by myself alone.
Exactly right.
But
Yeah.
wow. So 10
It was
years
fun,
old
though.
through 18, you're spending summers in Brooklyn with your dad.
Yep.
Was he? You said he was an interior decorator. Was he an entrepreneur, or was he working for somebody else? Or
He was working for somebody else at that time. Later, opened up a couple of businesses on his own, both in the decorating area, home decorating, and also opened up later in his career and in his life, opened up an ice cream shop. It's just something that he wanted to do. And so, I thought, wow, how do you do that? But he did it and was always successful at what he did, and I loved it and enjoyed it. My mom was a bit of an entrepreneur too. She ran our apartment complex that we lived in. We were poor, and we had a one-bedroom apartment, and there were 3 boys in the bedroom in 3 twin beds. My mom slept on the living room couch, and that was it for several years, all the way through high school. And it was amazing, but that's the way it was, and we learned how to be and how to live and survive. And of course, you got to do a lot of entrepreneurial things to be able to live through all that.
yeah.
So my mom was great. She was also a dental assistant, and then later in real estate. So hello, they were all in different careers, took chances, had no money, and then built up some money. So I was blessed to see that. Very, very blessed.
Well, that's a very interesting background. I mean, I can't imagine living in a one-bedroom apartment, watching your mom sleep on the couch while you and the brothers got the beds.
I didn't know any better. I thought that's what moms did, that's what boys did. And no, I later learned, how the hell did she do that? I mean, just incredible. She was an amazing woman.
Yeah, well, and just besides the space issue, you've got you've got privacy. Just being, sleeping in the couch. Anyway, well, so as you went to college, you got your degree in, I think you said, a Bachelor of Science degree in advertising
Yep.
from the University of Florida.
Right.
And then you went on to get an executive management program at Tuck University at Dartmouth, MBA in organizational management from Trevecca. So what did you intend to do when you went to college to get that advertising degree?
I wanted to work for an advertising company. And I liked advertising, and I thought it was really cool. But to be honest with you, that's not where I started. I started out in engineering because I wanted to be an engineer too. Shows you what I knew, which was nothing. And talk about entrepreneurial, you want to be an engineer, then you want to be in advertising. I wanted to be an engineer until I took a few math courses. And then I decided, I don't think I want to be an engineer. I'm not really good at this. And how I came up with advertising, even though earlier in life I thought that would be cool, I looked at the entire scheme of courses and curriculum at the University of Florida, and I said, what is the absolute easiest? An idiot could get through this. I just want a degree. I don't even know that I care anymore what it's in, but I got to have this degree, and I know that. And my oldest brother got a degree from University of Miami, later got a PhD and became a professor. And I thought, okay, I got to do this. And so that's how I looked at advertising. As I looked at all the courses, these are no-brainer. They give a degree for this kind of stuff. This is a no-brainer. And I did, and ended up with a 3.8 grade point average, did great, loved it. Got out of University of Florida, and well, what are you going to do? Well, I got to work for an ad agency. So I did in Palm Beach. Wars were going on. People were being drafted. I was later drafted. And so let me work for a local ad agency, and I did. Only problem was the owner of the ad agency, great guy, he had a son by the name of Clark. So all throughout the day, Clark, get in here. All right, is that me or the other Clark? What is happening? And things just got a little bit unraveled over time. This is not going to work. At the same time, I was always into cars, and my dad and I in the summer would look at cars and drive cars and stuff. And I don't know why, but I picked Chrysler Corporation and applied for a job there. And they said, oh man, yeah, we don't have any openings right now, but we'll call you when we do. And it was a month later, we got an opening. Here I am at the ad agency. Do I leave the ad agency, go with them? But now things are starting to pick up at the ad agency. Told Chrysler, hey man, I'm not ready yet, but I might be in a few months. Can I call you back? Yep, sure. Called him back in a few months. I'm available now. Good, you start Monday. And that was my start at Chrysler. And it was amazing. 19 years with them. Loved it.
And so this was right out of your undergrad?
That's correct.
So you're what, 21 years old, 22?
I'm 21, 22 years old. That's exactly right. Started with Chrysler, and they were amazing. I moved 14 times across country with Chrysler. I'm not talking about, Brentwood to Franklin or something like that. I'm talking Washington, D.C., Detroit, California, Detroit, California, Detroit, California. A lot of moves around the country and doing some crazy stuff, and loved all of it.
Wow. So it was during that tenure that you worked with Lee Iacocca?
It is. It was my last 5 years at Chrysler and his first 5 years at Chrysler. He had just been fired from Ford. And I thought, fired? I can't imagine ever getting fired. Oh, by the way, I've been fired 3 times since. But I thought that was amazing. And he joins Chrysler, and a lot of publicity and press. Well, he had a home in Boca Raton, Florida. And I was living in Florida also, in New Palm Beach and Boca and all those rich places. Not that we were, but he obviously was. And so I got to meet him and his wife and his 2 lovely daughters, Kathy and Leah. His wife eventually passed away, unfortunately. And then he got married, I think, 2 more times. And I've been married 3 times. So it's entrepreneurial all the way, okay? And my current wife and I have been married now for over 16 years, and delightful. She's amazing. So I am very blessed. But I learned a lot from him. I really did. He had some things that were unusual about him. He would be in meetings and he would remind people to stay stupid. And you think about that, stay stupid. But every now and then in some of the meetings, and one of the board meetings that I was at, one of his senior vice presidents was kind of bragging about how he was doing in his division. He said, hey, stay stupid. You don't know everything. I don't either. And I'm stupid. So it's important that we stay stupid, because see, stupid people, they read more, they listen more, they pay attention more because they know they're stupid. So they want to get better. And that's what stupid people do. So stay stupid. That was one of his favorite ones. and I saw him do that on 2 or 3 different occasions. Oh my God, I need to live with that. And I loved how he did that. And he had several of them. Another one was about learning and growing and being a leader. And sometimes underlings in a department would come to him and talk about, well, I'm not a CEO, so no, time out. You are a CEO. You're the CEO of your department. So you do what you need to do. You're not the CEO. No, you can't sell the company, but you are a CEO of your department. So act like it and be that CEO. And it's amazing. And those things I will just never, ever forget.
Well, there's not very many people that have worked directly with Lee Iacocca that I know. So that's pretty cool that I'm sitting across from somebody who's done that, because he's a legend. As I said in the intro, he's a legend in the car industry and just in business in general, and had some pretty strong opinions about stuff, but he also did some great stuff. And because it wasn't, he was behind the Mustang, like when he was at Ford.
That is correct.
And then he was behind the Dodge, what was it, the Daytona? The Dodge
Yes,
Daytona, which was
and the minivan started that whole thing. He wanted to do that at Ford. And Henry Ford's a minivan? That's like a brick on wheel. What the hell are you talking? No, I think it's really good. Went to Chrysler. Okay, we're going to do it. Invented the minivan there. They became the first to do it. Became amazing and helped save the company. I mean, he turned the company around. It was done. It was broke. It was over. Chrysler was going away until he got there, and he turned it all around.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It was fantastic. Yeah.
So when did you go from working in the corporate world into your own thing as an entrepreneur, owning your own business?
Well, that was after Chrysler, and then I was recruited by Mazda to be the chief operating officer to run Mazda in this country. They actually had two Mazdas at that time, an East Coast Mazda and a West Coast Mazda, and they thought, I don't think this is going to last forever. We need to be one Mazda, but I don't want to pick anybody from the East or the West. I need a new guy or gal to come in and run it. And so I was one of 15 candidates, and eventually they picked me to do it. Was there for 5 years. Absolutely loved my Japanese CEO, and he taught me so many great things. And just the Mazda and Japanese culture itself, really different from American companies, and I was so impressed by being there. But the tough part was my boss at Chrysler said, so you're leaving? Yeah. Well, so tell Mr. Iacocca that, no, I ain't telling him nothing. You're going to have to resign to him. No, you're crazy. I can't do that. Oh, yes, you can, because I'm not telling him. So if you want to leave, you're going to have to. And I'm thinking, oh, my Lord. And so got an appointment, went to him, told him what I was doing, scared out of my mind. I'd never been scared with Mr. Iacocca before. But yeah, so Lee, here's what's happening. I was recruited to run Mazda in this country. Oh, Mazda, really? What are you going to do there? And I said, I'm going to be the COO. And well, congratulations, Clark. I knew you could do that. I think that's amazing. I think that's beautiful. We're going to see each other at a lot of industry events. And I look forward to that for you. I know you're going to do great. And he didn't beat me up. He didn't swing at me. He didn't kick me out of the room. It was amazing, but that's the kind of class guy that he was as well. So going to a Japanese company, working for a Japanese CEO was fantastic. It helped me change from the American ways of doing business to the Japanese thought philosophy and how deep they are. You know, you have an American person and a Japanese person, they're going to build a house together, not together, separately, and they're going to have kind of a race to see who gets there the best and the first. The American guy will have the land bought in 2 weeks, and he'll have the frame put in another 2 weeks, and he'll have some things put up. And I mean, in 6 months, it's 90% built. But then he discovers, geez, I didn't do this right, and I didn't do that right. So he has to rebuild and fix and rebuild and fix. Yeah, the Japanese person, he won't even have the land bought for 6 months because he's thoroughly researching and studying how much land do I want, what kind of a house do I want to put on it, and then he does more research and study on the kind of framing and the kind of base that he wants. Well, they both finish in December, but the American house has all kinds of changes in it, and it's just not quite as slick. The Japanese house, it's bulletproof, it's perfect, it's amazing. And those are the kind of things that I learned about. I thought America was the way to go, and it is, and I still believe that, but there's different companies and different cultures that do things differently, and that added to my entrepreneurial spirit, that there's other ways to do things.
And how long were you at Mazda?
I led that company for 5 years, absolutely loved it. And then I was recruited by Mark III Industries. They were based in Ocala, Florida, which had an interest for me because I was in California with Mazda, and here's a way to get back to Florida, so that'd be kind of cool. So I'm talking with them. Meantime, the CEO at Mazda that I had got sent back to Japan, and the person that I thought was going to be coming to replace him is somebody that I was very close with in Japan. Turns out he got stomach cancer, couldn't take the job. They gave it to somebody else who he and I absolutely did not agree with each other on anything for the 5 years that I was there. So I'm there a month, and he's there a month in his new job, and he fires me. Okay, no problem at all, except I'm working with this other company in Florida now. So I got fired from Mazda and had a job waiting for me in Florida, took that CEO job. So within 30 days, I leave one, start another. Again, entrepreneurial in an industry I didn't know how to spell, conversion vans and conversion trucks, and not my sweet spot, but learned a lot about it. We had a 200,000 square foot construction company, and that's where we built these. And it was amazing. Learned about quality and what we had to do. And when I started there, I think I want to say we were a number 19 in the industry. And we became number 1 in the industry in the couple of years that I was there. Really increased sales, increased profits, brought some new people to the company that I knew from the auto industry. Really helped us turn that company around and really make some changes, and absolutely loved it.
Do you think that the industry, just as an aside, because I shared a story pre-show with you that I used to work for a competitor, Mark III, back, it was in my 20s.
Yep.
And hated every second of it. And it's one of the only few jobs that I walked away from, just like quit. Like I told you, I drove the conversion van that was my company vehicle to the dealership that day to work. And then I told my wife to come pick me up. I'm going. She's had to drive me home, and I just left the van.
I love that story. Oh my gosh, that is fantastic. I've never done that. I may have to do that in the future. That's too cool.
Well, I felt terrible about it, but there are lots of extenuating circumstances. But do you think that industry, just as an aside, is kind of still viable, or that conversion van and truck thing, or is it still going?
What was cool about it at that time, and I don't stay with it today, and that was 20 years ago. But all the things that they did on a van or a pickup truck, they really taught the original equipment manufacturers, the OEMs, the Chryslers and Fords and GMs of the world, you need to put this, you need to put a TV there, you need to have stereos in there, you need to have step bumpers on the side so that you can get into those vans and pickup trucks easier. You need to have more comfortable seats, you need to have seats that change around. And all of those things the OEMs did over time, because they watched the conversion companies on because we were working tightly with consumers on what they wanted in a conversion van, and we actually did them and performed them. And they realized, you know what, we will increase our sales and profitability if we start adding those things. And today, regular basis, GM, Ford, Chrysler, all their products, they do stuff like that in their vans and pickup trucks.
When I was working with that other company, they were out of Fort Worth, Texas. When I was working with them, they at that time, GM was starting to do their own first conversion vans, but their windows, our argument against it was that their windows were on the belt line rather than lower, because the conversion vans always had really long windows. That's correct. And they were like, oh no, they'll never do. And I think the shorter windows actually look better. Yep. On the conversion vans.
Gotcha.
But anyway, that's just an aside. Now, okay, so you go from Chrysler to Mazda to Mark III.
Yes.
And then Mark III, what next? We're going to take a break from our show right now to bring you our sponsors.
Hear that? Believe it or not, summer is just around the corner. Luckily, Armor All, America's most trusted auto appearance brand, has what your car needs to get that perfect summer shine. Plus, now through May 31st, we'll give you $5 for every $20 you spend on Armor All products. That means car wash pods, protectant, tire shine, you name it. Find out how to get your $5 rebate at armorall.com. Armor All, less work, more clean. Terms apply.
All right, thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now back to the show.
Yeah, I was fired from there too. We had
you were doing so good, like you got to go.
We're rocking. I didn't know when we got there. The recruiter didn't tell me. The owner of the company didn't tell me. No one told me. They were absolutely broke. They were $2 million in debt. They were losing money left and right. Those were none of the financials that I saw or that anybody talked to me about. And so I'm there a month and I'm realizing all of this happening. I called the recruiter. Is there something you needed to tell me? I said, no, what's up? And so I told him that story. I said, oh my God, I'll have you replaced in 30 days. Don't worry about it. I feel terrible. This never should have happened. I said, no, I watched Iacocca turn Chrysler around, and I saw some of the things that he had to do. I want to turn this company around. That's what I want to do. That is my shtick now, so I'm going to do it. If I need help in the next 6 months or something, I'll call you, but nope, I'm staying here and I'm turning this bad boy around. And so that was my thing, and it became my passion, was to turn that company around. And we did, and that's the case where I brought some people in from the Chryslers that I knew and other companies from the automotive industry that could do things like that. And so we did. We built better products, better quality, all kinds of good stuff, and absolutely loved it. But that's how I left Mark III. So I'm out of Mark III now. God, what am I going to do now? And I get a call from the boating industry that says, okay, you've been in cars, you've been in RVs, you've been in American companies, Japanese companies, you're probably going to be in airplanes next, but we do boats. You got any thoughts on that? And I said, yeah, I love boating, never owned one, but sure. And so I joined the company. The CEO and I got along great. And he said, we have a boat division that's not doing well. It's not making money. The quality of the products is not good. You've seen it all, done it all. You want to give that a shot? I said, sure. So I was living in Nashville at the time. And he said, we actually have a boat plant in the Nashville area down in Smyrna. And we've got 12 boat plants. And I said, what are some brands? Well, have you ever heard of Chris Craft? I said, oh my God, Chris Craft. Oh yeah, that's the biggest, best in the world. And he says, it sort of is, but not recently. I said, okay. And so I went down to the Chris Craft plant and I saw some production things that they weren't doing right, some quality things, but I still loved their products. And so that was my shtick again, is I've got to go help this boating brand and this boating industry company, amazing company, Outboard Marine Corporation. We got to turn it around. We got to do what we can do. So then the company is in the process of being sold. And there are several people that they're looking at, but one of them is Roger Penske. And Roger takes a look at the company and decides to spend some time looking at the engine side, because the engine side of the company was much bigger. We built Johnson and Evinrude engines. And then we had this boat division, which was not doing well. So we met and he said, I know you from the car industry. And I gave him my background. He said, yeah, what the hell are you doing here? And I said, well, I went to cars, went to Japanese, went to RVs, and now boats. Well, everybody tells me we should sell off the boat division. I said, don't do that. I've already seen some things that I think we can improve on, and my gosh, with your leadership, if you buy the company, we're just going to rock and roll, and we'll do this. And he said, where's your closest boat company, and where's the plant? And I said, it's down in Smyrna. He said, all right, I'm going to meet you there next week. How many shifts do you have? I said, we're rocking down there. We've got 3 shifts. And we're exploding, and it's doing great, great quality, great products. And he said, tell you what, why don't we do the 3rd shift together? Okay, have you ever been to the 3rd shift? I said, no. He said, okay, we'll do it together. And 3rd shift starts at 11 o'clock at night till 5 or 6 in the morning. And he said, why don't we bring them dinner? Let's do dinner with them. I said, okay, I'll arrange all that. He says, I'll fly in my private jet. They have a runway there, and we'll do it. We'll do it together. Okay, great. I am scared out of my mind. Never done a 3rd shift. Hope I can stay awake all night because I sleep a lot. And here I am with the potential new CEO. We had an awesome time. The 3rd shift, loved having me there, loved having, obviously, Roger Penske there. And we had a great hour-and-a-half session with them. We brought food, dinner. The guys and gals there in that plant were fantastic. And they were hardworking, they built good products, and they were just fun to be with. And
did he buy it? Did he end up buying?
He ended up not buying it. And
okay.
So in sharing this story, that was 20 years ago, and he may not want this to be shared, but I know it's not going to go to anybody, so yeah, we'll kind of keep that private. Not. So anyway, yeah, that's just part of the life story. And those kinds of stories, well, you asked me earlier, where that entrepreneurial thing, it started at 10, but everything that I went through in my business career told me you don't have to be in one place your entire life. You can do things different, learn from different leaders, learn from different cultures, from different industries. Yeah, I just loved it.
So the boat from OMC, what was next? Where'd you go next?
Yeah, so actually that's when I did some consulting abroad.
Yeah, you went to Korea and
Korea,
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, yes. Worked for one of the 5 sheikhs of Saudi Arabia, one of the 5 family members, and that was a different culture. Amazing people, amazing culture. That was really fun. Well, they had several General Motors dealerships, and they wanted an American face to, not the face of the dealerships, but an American experienced person with American companies, because, you know, we deal with GM, and come help those folks build and grow and turn around and fix what they need. So I went over there. They had, I think, a dozen or more dealerships, and visited them all and got to talk to the people that were running those dealerships, and just brought some typically American and a few Japanese things to them on the dealerships, and how do you talk to your customers, and how are the products, and all that stuff. So it was great. It was only a 30, 40-day assignment, but I was, and what's interesting, you need a, what's the word, to get into Saudi Arabia, a special, not a special passport, but a special permit to get in. And they gave me that permit, and they gave me my flight, but no return flight. and at the time, I had 2 little babies at home and a wife, and said, bring your wife and babies if you want. No, I'd like to stay home at that time. And I'm wondering, when do I get to leave? So it was 30, 40 days later. They said, you have been amazing. Thank you so much for everything that you've done. Great. We take everything that you've said to task, and we're going to make sure that our people run the way you tell them to run. So that was kind of fun and cool, and I really enjoyed it.
When did you get into the motorcycle thing? I'm waiting for that story, because that's when
Yeah. So, oh, I guess I did that too, didn't I? Yeah. So, so that's coinciding with me joining a VISTAGE group. I got invited to join a VISTAGE CEO group in Nashville. And the group had a dozen CEOs in, all male at that time, mostly first generation, a couple of second generation. And at the time that I'm doing that and starting that, I get a call from a private equity company in Chicago. My wife now works for a private equity company in Chicago, not the same one, but she's rocking and loving it, and I'm so proud of her and what she's doing right now. But they called me and said, hey, you've been in cars and boats and RVs and all kinds of stuff. We need a CEO of a, of a group that has a dozen dealerships in it. And they want to sell, and we're thinking of buying them, but we need somebody to be the CEO of that group. I said, sure. They're in Florida. I said, great. So I went to that company, interviewed the senior leadership team, and interviewed what they do and how they do it. And I called the private equity company back. I said, hey, I got to pass. What's the deal? Well, I like the industry now that I've gotten to visit some of these dealerships and so forth. Not really interested in that particular company and what they're doing and how they're doing it. So I got to pass. If you want to start one from scratch at some point, fine, but that's not one that I want to take over. It's more than I want to do. And they said, oh, okay. So hung up. Didn't hear anything. About 3 weeks later, 3 or 4 weeks later, they called me back and said, would you be interested in a startup? And I said, yeah, what do you got? Well, let's do the motorcycle industry and let's buy some motorcycle dealerships. Okay, I'll do that. What do you want me to do? We got a young guy. He's kick butt. He's really, really good. University of Chicago grad, MBA, really great. He's yours now. He will help you get you into the private equity, how it works, et cetera. And anybody that you want to go travel and see to maybe potentially acquire a motorcycle dealership, he'll be with you. And by the way, we're not going to pay you anything, but we'll pay you all your expenses. And I don't know how long it'll take you to put this together, but that's our deal. We're not paying you anything to do it until we put the deal together. Now, when we put the deal together, you'll have a sweet deal, but not now. So just expenses. You got to fly somewhere. You got whatever expenses you got to take to do this. You do it. Okay, great. So in about 8 months, called on 200 motorcycle dealerships in the country, most by phone, but a fair amount visually going there and visiting in various cities, California, Texas, Northwest, Northeast. And I said, great, I'm ready to do this. And I found some candidates that I think would be good candidates to acquire. And they said, okay, well, we're here in Chicago, so we'd like to base the company here. No, I'm not moving again. I've moved 18, 19 times in my career. I'm in Nashville. I want to start the company here. Oh, man. But we did that. So they agreed to that. So I was based in Nashville.
Well, good for you, because Chicago's not really great motorcycle weather most of the year, right?
Anyway. Or any other kind of weather.
Or any other kind of weather. So Nashville is a much better place for motorcycling.
Much better. That's exactly right. And I didn't want to move my family again and all that. And so I said, no, I want to be based here. But I'm used to running national companies, so I have no problem traveling nationally. Yeah, I don't know that we want to do nationally. Why don't we just have it a Chicago-based company and just let's buy half a dozen motorcycle dealerships here in Chicago. Okay, not bad at all, but no, I don't think I want to do that. That's not part of my plan. Let me put a business plan together on how this could work. Yeah, okay, work with the guy that we have sent you because he's great at that too. And so we did. We put a business plan together to be a national company. We bought our first dealership in Austin, Texas, our second one in San Diego, our third one in Boston, then one in Pennsylvania, and then one in Detroit, and then Nashville, and then Alabama. He said, you really were serious about nationally? I said, that is correct. I want to buy the best stores at the best prices, and that's what's going to help our company be profitable as we go forward. I said, okay, if you can pull it off. I said, I'm pulling it off. We're doing it. So we did. We ended up buying 17 dealerships.
Wow.
In 9 states. We had 63 different brand makeups at stores. Some were strictly Harley, and some were BMW, and then others were mixed, Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, Suzuki. Polaris, Sea-Doo, we would do stuff like that. And we would never buy, they encouraged me to look at folks that weren't doing well. We could buy them cheaper. I said, okay. But as I started to meet those kinds, they didn't have a good reputation in their community necessarily. I said, no, I want to buy a good dealership and make them great. That's my MO. And so that's what we did. And in each market, we bought one of the better ones in every market. And we didn't change their name. We left the name of the company there. And in all but a couple of cases, we left the CEOs in place. The owner was there. You know the community. You know your customers. You got a great reputation. You want to be a part of this? Well, yeah, actually, you're going to buy my business? Yeah, we're going to buy your business, pay you a ton. Let's be partners. Okay, great. And so that's what we did. That was our MO, and that model really, really worked
So
well.
so you said in most cases out of the 17 dealerships, the CEO, the founder of that motorcycle dealership stayed on as the CEO of the dealership.
That's correct.
How long did they normally stay after they did that?
I gave them all a 3-year plus contract. If you want it to be longer, it can be, but I'll keep you here for 3 years. I only had to fire one before the 3 years was up. But that was it. The rest of them were great, and they stayed longer. One of them is still there, actually, in that dealership, and that's 15 years ago. Doing great. I wanted most of them to be there and to stay because I didn't know how to spell motorcycles. I mean, you got to be kidding. I knew HD because I could hyphenate, but no. So I knew I needed these folks to be teaching me the motorcycle industry. Mm-hmm. I knew about investing and I knew about what I wanted as a model, but riding a motorcycle, no. And when each of them that I would meet would, so what do you ride? Yeah, no, I don't ride. And I realized after about 3 or 4 times that I'm an idiot. You need to go get a motorcycle license and start to ride. So I did. I did exactly that. And I bought my first bike was a Harley, their low price model and small model because I didn't want a big one. And so that's what I got, a Sportster. And so that was kind of fun though, and I enjoyed it. And I bought it in Austin, Texas, and that's where I rode it. Eventually they shipped it to Nashville, but that was fun. And I said, okay. And so anytime somebody would say, so what do you ride? Yeah, I ride a Harley. Oh yeah, Harley rider. Yeah, okay. Didn't tell him that was 2 weeks ago, but that's okay.
I've ridden one. Yeah.
Exactly right.
So how was the motorcycle industry different than the automobile industry, in your opinion?
So many amazing ways, and it was similar to boats and RVs as well. And that is the people that buy a Harley or a Honda or a BMW and buy a boat and buy an RV, they don't do it for transportation. They're doing it for fun. I want this for enjoyment. I want it for excitement. We got into selling to women buying motorcycles. Many of them would be, I just got divorced, and that bozo's out of my life, and I want to buy a Harley or I want to buy a motorcycle. And I've always wanted to do it. My husband didn't want me to do it. I'm doing it. So what kind of a bike would be right for me? And so we did that. And women were 6% of the buyers when I started, and they were 15% just a few years later. And that was really, really cool. And a lot of couples would want to buy bikes together. So when you want to buy a car, I need transportation. I need to get to work. I need to take my kids to school. Those are the kind of things you did. And yeah, I know you bought Mercedes-Benz too, and that was more than just transportation. I got it. But still, that was the real purpose. Buying a motorcycle or a boat or an RV, it's not for transportation. It's for excitement. It's for family vacations. It's for seeing the world. It's for being entrepreneurial, if you will. And that kind of tied into where I was as well. And it just fit.
You know, people don't go to the car dealership on the weekend, just walk around and hang out. But they do that to motorcycle dealerships.
They do it at a Harley store. They do it at a motorcycle store. They absolutely do. We had ping pong tables in our dealership. We had dart boards. We had fun stuff. Always had barbecues on the weekend, and I would be the one flipping the burgers and cooking the dogs. And somebody would ask, where's the owner? Oh, that's him over there. The idiot that flipping the burgers and do it? Yeah, that's the owner. Really? And so they'd want to meet me, and I'd want to meet them, and just have casual, fun conversations with them. You don't do that in a car store.
Well, that is why, and you know this because we've had this conversation, but that is why I am in pursuit of purchasing a motorcycle dealership. Because in my years of entrepreneurship and starting companies, I thought, I love motorcycles. I love the culture. I love riding. I understand it. I want to do all things motorcycling. I don't ride as much as I would like to.
Sure.
But I thought, well, let me get into the motorcycling world. And so, as you know, I'm in the process of trying to purchase one. I'm under letter of intent to purchase and waiting on the bank to give the approvals. And
awesome.
So I'm excited about that because
Good.
I do like the culture. I think that, the idea of buying a motorcycle dealership or a motorcycle dealership in general, as you well have experienced, it's that camaraderie, the culture, the community that's built around it, and it is for fun and enjoyment. It's not just transportation.
That's exactly right.
And so for me as an entrepreneur, that's an opportunity for me to exercise a muscle that I haven't exercised before in the entrepreneurial world. I've not done retail before. I've not done that. So it's going to be exciting, and I'm excited for you to help me with that.
I will be happy to help you with that. Anything I can do with you, I will do it. You will enjoy it. I promise you that. You will enjoy it. Yes, you will.
Well, VISTAGE has been a big part of your story. So I want to take a couple of minutes and talk about VISTAGE. And I know that some of the listeners have probably heard of VISTAGE. They know about it. But tell first of all, just before we talk about your experience, what is VISTAGE?
VISTAGE. Most people don't know about it. Most business owners don't know about it. It is started back in the 60s, so it's a 65-year-old company, 70-year-old company coming on. And we are now in 20 countries. We have 24,000 members. Whoa, what do you do, and how did all that happen? And it started with 4 guys in Wisconsin. They'd meet for lunch once a month. Hey, you want to have lunch? Yeah. They were in 4 different industries, had 4 different businesses, but they were buds, and let's just grab some lunch together. Okay, sure. And then they would be talking about things that turned out to be, even though they were different companies, different businesses, and different industries, they had some similarities about people and about how do I grow my company? And when I'm short of cash, what do I do? And there's people quitting, and what do I do about that? And whatever the issue was, well, this is what I did in my company, and here's what I did, and that worked. And I tried this, but I bummed out on that, and that failed. And so, And so the four of them are talking about, man, we have learned so much together over the months and years that we've been doing this. I wonder if we could make a business out of this. And those four guys founded VISTAGE 60 some odd years ago, and it's been crazy ever since. And then left the United States and went to another country and another country and another country, and that's why we're in 20 countries. And then they needed people to be able to talk to these entrepreneurs that would come to these monthly meetings to talk about what's working and what's not. Well, we need to hire some people to do that. I guess we need to hire some business people that know something about business, that know about running businesses, that can help these entrepreneurs build their businesses. And so I wanted to join. Now, I was entrepreneurial, going to start my own company in the motorcycle industry, and yet I didn't know enough about building businesses. I thought that I did. And then I hear about a company called TEC, T-E-C. And it stood for the Entrepreneurial Company, TEC. So I joined TEC in Nashville, which within a year or two, a company bought TEC out, which was a national company, and TEC actually is the one that started 60-something years ago. And a company bought them out, and they wanted to change the name to something tech. And at the time, the tech industry, TECH, is coming along. And
it's confusing.
We're going to get confused with the tech industry. We're not a tech company. What are we going to do? And so one of the marketing agencies that this new company had said, we got to come up with an unusual name. And so they combined VISTAGE with Advantage. So we want to have a vision, not VISTAGE, but we want to have a vision for the future, and we want to have some advantage to what we do. And when you blend that together, it's VISTAGE. And of course, some people call us VISTAGE, and they don't know what the heck we are, and that's okay. But we're VISTAGE, and that's where it came from, and now it's been around for under the VISTAGE name for 15 years or so.
So you were with TEC, and that's how you ended up getting into that. That's what you used as a kind of a leverage point of learning and mentorship to get into the motorcycle business.
That's exactly right.
And then now you're leading VISTAGE. You've won the VISTAGE Chair of the Year, 5 times, your Master Chair, Rookie of the Year, and you've got over 70 people here in the Nashville market that are part of VISTAGE. So tell everybody a little bit about what you're doing with VISTAGE and how they could get involved with VISTAGE.
Sure. I'm one of 500 chairs nationally. I think there are 5 others in the Nashville area, Tennessee area. I have coached most of them because VISTAGE has asked me, I got a new guy or woman on board. Could you help coach them? Let them come to your meetings for 6 months, do one-to-ones with them every month, and talk about how to build their chair practice. So I have done that. So what we do for a member is, it's pretty simple. We meet once a month as a group. Everybody signs a confidentiality agreement, and nothing leaves that room when we spend the entire day together. You have to agree to be there from 8 to 5. It's an all-day practice. 8 months of the year, we have a speaker come in that VISTAGE pays for, and they have 1,500 speakers that they can adapt and work with each community and so forth. And I get to pick the speakers that we want, except I don't pick them. I go to my members and say, what business topics would you like to hear speakers talk about? So I go over the list of topics that VISTAGE has and pick the best speaker that is rated the highest. The highest you can be rated is 5. And for me, they got to be a 5 or 4.9 or 4.8, but nothing lower than that. I want the best speakers on that particular topic. So most meetings, we're going to have that speaker in the morning. Then in the afternoon, we're going to do what we call issue and opportunity processing. Well, what's that? Well, you joined VISTAGE for a reason. You're either trying to grow, or you're trying to keep from going bankrupt, or you're trying to buy another company, or you want to change to a different kind of a process. So we'll help you with all of that. And those are the kind of topics that we'll talk about in the afternoon. And I will lead that issue and opportunity processing. And VISTAGE has a unique way to to process issues, and I loved it when I was part of it. You know, I joined Tech Vistage, and I'm about to now start my own company, and I've been with world-class companies, Iacocca, and the best people on the planet, but I've never started my own company. So VISTAGE was the way for me to do that. So that's why I joined that. And those entrepreneurial CEOs in there, I mean, they whipped my butt. I mean, they asked some tough, why are you getting into this? And where are you getting the money from? And how are you doing this? And who's going to be your first hire? That was a key one. Who's going to be your first hire? And I thought, I've hired hundreds of people. I've fired hundreds of people, thousands. But I've never had a first hire. And I've never had a first fire. I mean, it's my company now, and I have to hire my first person. How am I going to do that? And so they walked me through all of those kinds of things that I knew nothing about. And so they were great. I was with that group for a couple of years, but by then we had already acquired 2, 3, 5 different companies. And now I'm traveling to Austin and San Diego and Boston and Detroit, and I couldn't come to their monthly meetings all the time, and I realized that I was going to be missing some. So I had to leave the group, unfortunately, which I missed a great deal. And so, yeah, that's how I got into it. And that's what VISTAGE does. So we have monthly meetings. We have speakers 8 times a year. If it's in the CEO group, that CEO owns me for 2 hours a month. And I do one-to-ones with all my CEOs up to 2 hours a month. Now, if they only need 30 minutes or an hour and a half, no big deal. But if they've got something really serious they need to deep dive into and they want to talk to me for 2 hours, they got me. And that's a big advantage for the members as well. Mm-hmm. And some, I want to bring it up to the group, Clark, but I'm not sure how to approach it with the group. So can you walk me through what I should talk about and how, and what questions will they ask me and all that, so I can kind of prep them on how to bring it up to the next group meeting. So that's what VISTAGE is all about. And CEO, I have 2 of those CEO groups. There's 15 members in each. I have a C-suite group. They call it a key executive group, but those are people that are not CEOs, but they're COOs, CFOs, CMOs, CTO, all the C-suite kind of jobs. And I have one of those groups with 15 in it as well. And then a couple of years ago, I started an emerging leader group, which VISTAGE wanted me to start, so I did. And those are mostly millennials, 25 to 35. I have one that's younger. I have one that's 41. I have a member that's 60. But there's 26 in that group. And that is all about who you are, your education, your background. What do you think about? What do you want to be when you grow up? That kind of stuff. What's it like working in the company that you work in? And, you know, a lot of folks, they don't know about millennials. Yeah, I'm going to give them a job. I'll let them sweep the floor or something. No, I got 2 millennial sons. One's 30, one's 29. They kick butt, and every millennial almost that I've ever met, they are sharp. They are good. They take risks. They'll do all kinds of work. They'll work all kinds of hours. Millennials are amazing, and they're more than 51% of the workforce today. So some older, generally CEO that doesn't believe in millennials, you're missing it, buddy. I'm sorry.
Doesn't believe in millennials.
You're missing it.
Yeah. Well, I've got a lot of great millennials that work for me, and
awesome.
that tenure is almost, I think I got one's almost 9 years. That doesn't happen, right?
It doesn't
It's not supposed to happen,
yeah,
but
bull.
it does. It does. If you build the right culture and you got a good company, it'll
exactly
happen.
Right.
Well, so how do people get in touch with Vistage? Is it vistage.com? What's the website?
Vistage.com is the website. It's a great website. Or Music City Chief Executives or Music City CEOs, .com. Get onto that website. You'll learn all about me, all about my Vistage groups, or call me.
Yeah, so musiccityceos.com.
That's correct.
To get in touch with Clark Vitulli. Well,
Correct.
Clark, as we get ready to close down our conversation, let me ask you this. This show is called The Root of All Success, and you've had tremendous success and failures, as we talked about, back and forth. But what is your definition of that word success?
Good. Thank you. I don't think we have time, so unfortunately, thank you for doing that to me. I do have a definition of success, and it's where each individual has to come from. I don't think there's one definition or one format or one road. It's got to be your road to success. And mine was divorced parents, a lot of travel back and forth, moving 21 times in my career, burning out 2 wives before I found the wife that I have, and children and mixed marriages, and companies that you're starting, and then helping other companies as they're going away. It's all of those kinds of things have been, for me, my goal in life is to help another company be successful. And if I can do that, I'm successful. That's what I look at now as being successful. And I learned it at Chrysler, because a lot of the Chrysler dealers, 30 years ago were not doing well financially. And my job was calling on them to help them be financially successful. If they weren't selling enough cars or trucks, Clark, how are you going to do that? Well, I don't know. I've never sold a car or truck, so I guess I need to figure that out first and find out what they're going through and what works and what doesn't, and then teach them how to do it. And I'd find one dealer that was really knocking the ball out of the park, selling cars and trucks, and I'd take some of those key learnings and I'd bring that around to other dealers and help them. And so for me, being successful is helping other people be successful, learning what it takes, failing repeatedly, and then learning how I have to change and be a better person. Today anymore, for me, a good company culture is about growth, change, accountability, alignment, and fit. Those are the 5 things today that make a company successful. And those are the things that have made my life successful. So I just steal from my own life and what I've had to go through, and growth, change, accountability, alignment and fit. That's it. If those are working, you're working.
That's great. Well, Clark, it's been such a pleasure to have this conversation with you, to dig a little deeper into your story. What a interesting career. What an interesting career of going advertising to Chrysler, to Mazda, to OMC, to Mark III, to dealerships all over the country, and motorcycling, and finally getting you a Sportster. Do you still have the Sportster?
No, I sold that and got a V-Rod, and then I got bigger bikes after that and loved every minute of it.
You still have any bikes at all now?
I don't now. I sold my last one last year because I wasn't riding enough. I was riding my Harley to a Harley dealer who is a client of mine down in Murfreesboro. So my riding was Murfreesboro and back every single month, which is fine. And I'd take the interstate sometimes, back roads others. I'm not riding enough. And my wife is a rider. She learned how to ride, but we weren't riding either because of her career and the things that she had to do. So it wasn't fair. So I eventually sold that bike, and
Well, thank you for the conversation, and I appreciate you sharing the insights. And I would encourage everybody to go look you up, musiccityceos.com. Well, thanks for tuning in on this show today. There you have it, another very successful person. Had a different story of the entrepreneurship, right? It's not the traditional, went out and started a company and built that over years, but had this experience, Clark did, of working with these top-level international companies, learning how those companies go. And then he was smart enough to know that when it was time for him to start his own company, he needed help. And he reached out to VISTAGE, or Tech at the time, it's now VISTAGE, and reached out to them and said, look, if I'm going to start this company, if I'm going to do this thing with these motorcycles in an industry that he's somewhat familiar with, but not specifically, he needed help. And that's what I'm glad, that's why I'm glad that you're listening to this show or watching the show if you're watching on YouTube, is because this is a way to get indirect mentorship through people like Clark and the other folks who sit in that chair across from me. And even for me, I mean, as we talk through this, you get indirect mentorship. You need to have a coach in your life. You need to have a mentor. You need to have someone to help you speed up the process, because Clark could have done all that on his own, but it would have taken a lot longer. So you're going to pay the money one way or the other. You're either going to pay it in time or you're going to pay it up front and learn it quickly. And that's what I do with my Business Accelerator program. So I want to invite you to go to exitwithoutexiting.com. Check out my Business Accelerator coaching program. It's 8 hours of live coaching with me, where I take you through the 4 core strategies on how to accelerate your success in business. And what do people do with that when they learn how to eliminate stress and how to embrace delegation and establish systems? How do they invest in people? What do they do with it? Well, some of the people that go through the program eventually just sell their business and they exit. They can use that to accelerate that exit. Other people use it to accelerate a physical exit, but not a financial one. They just want, like I've done, exited companies where I didn't sell it and I've stayed owner and stayed connected to it, but I'm not in it. And then other people take that information and they use it just to get out of the weeds of the company so that they can expand into different areas. So no matter what it is that you need, you can get into the Business Accelerator by going to exitwithoutexiting.com, and it'll change your life. So go to exitwithoutexiting.com, sign up for the next group cohort experience on the Business Accelerator. It will absolutely change your life. So tune in again next week when we talk with yet another very successful entrepreneur about his or her journey to success. Until then, I'm the real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is King.
Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, we invite you to visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Take charge of your business. Grow it from great to incredible. Join us again next time here on The Root of All Success.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.